going to go live. Do you remember going live?
Philip Schofield.
Yeah. Can we get Gordon to go for it?
Showing our age there.
Look at us double streaming.
Let me just check we're live. And we probably are live, so let's just keep it clean.
Yep.
We're starting. We're live on the Mantic page.
Brilliant.
I don't know where to look. There's two cameras.
Just look up there. Look up there.
Yep.
This isn't a camera. This is just a screen.
But I'm not going to I have to look at my own reflection.
There we go. That looks like it's working.
Hey, that's
yes.
Hey.
There we go.
Amazing.
There we go.
Fantastic. Hello.
Hooray.
Hello. Shall I just come in and say hello to...
Yeah, do it.
Hello, everyone in Mantic Land. And then you can say hello to everyone in Needycat Land.
You can say hello to him as well.
Okay. Hello to everyone in all the different lands. This is the League of Infamy live stream Q&A session, which we promised earlier in the week. So this is your chance to ask anything. Well, anything about the game. Well, you could ask anything.
Anything you like.
Let's
focus on League of Infamy. That's
yeah.
You can ask. I mean, we can't always promise we'll be able to answer. But you can try and ask anything. And
yeah.
So Rob, if a train leaves Nottingham, travelling at 43 miles an hour.
Oh, cry. I don't maths problem. So we are live on the Mantic page. We're live on the
Needycat page as well.
Needycat page as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be putting the link on Facebook in a second. So if you want to ask questions, you can go in the comments on YouTube. You can ask on Facebook. You can ask on the Needy. You can send smoke signals out.
We won't see them.
No,
but you can. We won't stop
and
you.
we will do that. So I'm going to hover off because no one wants to see me anymore.
Can we have you here at all times in the office, just hovering behind us?
And then I'll hover back.
It's fantastic.
And then you can kind of introduce yourselves, just for people who don't. I mean, obviously everyone knows who you are, but
I don't know. The people who know who I was from Romantic days, they think, well, who's this guy with no hair and a big beard? So I used to not have the hair. I used to have the hair, but now I don't have the hair.
Do you want to?
Should we do it? Yeah, let's introduce ourselves. Hello.
Hi.
We are Needycat Games. We're here in the Needycat Games office. I'm James. This is Sophie. And we design games and stuff. We do a lot of other stuff as well. But at the moment, we're here talking about games that we design, specifically League of Infamy. Sophie, what is League of Infamy?
League of Infamy is a cooperative dungeon crawler where you play the villains assaulting a keep. Where I think the first one's a Dracon Sanctuary, so you're assaulting the good guys. You're trying to steal stuff from them. You have to work together to be able to defeat the Keep Master, who is the person who's controlling the good guys. But at the end of the day,
you're being ranked on your performance.
Yeah, you're ranked on your performance. Everyone, you still have to work together to achieve it. But if you trip someone else up and steal their favourite bit of loot, and that makes you the richest player at the end of the game, then good for you. Yeah. Well done.
It's been a really fun one to work on. So Sophie was lead designer on this game. Mm-hmm. I've been able to take a back seat, which is nice, and just sort of poke holes and correct things, and all the sort of rules, more of a rules edit than rules writing, which has been really good fun.
I think this is the most fun I've had writing a game
ever.
Most fun ever. But no,
Rob's out off camera, stop.
But it's been really fun, and playtesting has just been just laughing for hours on end, which is quite. Playtesting is essential, and you do have fun playing the game, but usually it's like you do a thing, it doesn't work, you tweak it, you do it again. But with this, even when things didn't work or things went badly and we have to change stuff, everyone around the table was just laughing the whole time.
Yeah, it's just a funny game. It's one, because we really put a focus on player interaction. That was one of the things we wanted to put in from the start. Mm-hmm. Was this isn't just a game where you're zeroed in on the board in front of you. You are constantly interacting with other players, whether that is asking them to help you out, offering help to them in exchange for something.
Bribery is it's not actually a mechanic in the game, but it's
encouraged in the rules. Yeah,
it's emerged as quite an important strategy.
And like the Keep Master, there's quite an interesting meta game around the game. The Keep Master's role, they're not only controlling the defenders, they're also reminding the villains of all the little things that the other villains have done to annoy them. Mm-hmm. Are you going to help them out? Didn't they just nick a bit of treasure off you? Ooh, and what you get is, every game we've played has been really good fun. The video we recorded for TNG Productions,
that was very silly.
That was hilarious. I think we actually managed to interrupt Rob and Martin filming on the other side of the building by laughing.
Yeah, it came. We could hear it down. I like sliding in. It came down the corridor. We could hear everyone kind of going crazy, and we were like, "What's going on?" And then it was obviously you guys playing that.
Absolutely. And apparently we got a few rules wrong towards the end, but hey, we got excited.
At the end of the day, a game's for having fun with,
exactly.
And that's the most important thing. And I think we really focused on, when we were making this game, making sure that it was even when you're failing, even when things are difficult, even when you're like your character's downed and you're trying to get back up, it's still fun and silly and enjoyable, and then it's still quite an engaging experience rather than like, oh well, I'm down, I'm out now. Yeah. Like that isn't part of the game at all.
Keeping every player as engaged as possible, up to the end. That was kind of the point of it, and I'm really proud of it. I think we took a lot of lessons because, so if you don't know, we also designed Hellboy the board game for Mantic, and with
that's one of the questions I've got.
What,
how similar?
Hellboy?
No, how similar to Hellboy is it, and what lessons did you learn from Hellboy?
Should we answer this one?
Yeah.
So what I was kind of getting towards was
sorry,
just derail us completely, Rob. What the heck? So one of the things that we focused on with Hellboy was making the game like a conversation. Because in Hellboy you have the agent phase where each player gets 3 actions, but you can do them in any order you like. You can in-place your action and say you can go, right, I'm playing Hellboy, I'm going to move up, open that door. Sophie, you're being Abe Sapien, you can shoot that frog monster in there, then I'll follow up. And so the game's a conversation. We didn't want to go quite to that degree with League of Infamy, but we wanted to kind of maintain that dialogue at the table and that interactive element.
Oh yeah, and there's a huge amount of like, could I just, because you can swap things, like you get initiative tokens and you can swap them, so you as long as you do it not constantly, and the conversations you get about like, well, could you just let me go first, because then I can get up and then I can do this and this, and they're like, yeah, but that also means that you've got first active action.
Yeah, you're gonna grab that treasure.
You've got the first access to that treasure or to that Dracon egg, or that gives you a bonus if you do that first.
Okay, what if I give you 2 infamy and you let me? And it starts becoming a whole thing.
Yeah.
And then of course there are disorder cards that throw that into disarray as well. We'll probably talk about disorder cards in a little bit. Sorry, Rob, what was your question?
The question was how kind of similar to Hellboy is it, and what lessons did you learn from Hellboy when you came to making this?
So I think one of the key things was that we were really staunchly protective of the 4-player sort of dynamic of Hellboy, because there's like the dinner party conversation problem where if you get more than 4 people around a table, the conversations actually break up into smaller conversations, so you'll get like 2s and 3s forming, and so we were very protective of maintaining the 4-player as the maximum, so that everyone is engaged in the conversation at all times, and you get like people working together as a full group, and we maintained that in League of Infamy for exactly the same reason, but with the kind of why are you going over there? You should be helping me get back up. Yes, it's up to 5 players, but that's because there's a keep master element to it. So the keep master is the one that's like observing and plotting and kind of going, Mwah. Although they are good, they're the good guys.
That's not a very good laugh. They're going to go ha 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 ha.
That was fantastic.
Pass me a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So yes. So that is so the keep master is sort of overseeing that experience rather than being fully engaged, but they will be like, oh, don't forget that they didn't help you out when you asked them to, and also here's this card that I've just played, and they sort of mess up with the format, so we kind of maintain that 4-player dynamic kind of experience. Also the dice. Do you want to talk about the dice?
Oh yeah, actually. So one of the things that the game borrows from Hellboy is the dice system. So and actually, the way attacks works very similar to Hellboy. So what we wanted was a dice system that was just really intuitive and simple, and kind of got out of the way and just let you enjoy the game. In my mind, certainly, I think you're probably on a similar wavelength. Mechanical things like dice are at their best when they're a tool that lets you play the game and you haven't got to think about them too much. So I like things where you roll the dice and you can immediately see what you've done. So the way the dice system works is you've got 3 colours of dice. I'm not sure what are the colours, Rob?
Green, white, purple.
Which one's the best? Is it purple at the top?
Purple's at the top.
Green in the middle?
Sure.
White at the bottom?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Because obviously we just grabbed 3 random colours from our box when we did the prototype. But you start off with white dice, which are marked with like 0, 1, 2. You can upgrade that to orange,
green,
sorry,
orange,
which
in our
is like
prototype.
1, 2, 3, 4, and then purple is like silly numbers.
Yeah.
And the idea is that certain things will let you upgrade or downgrade dice, so you're not worrying about modifying the result.
There's no maths involved.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not having to go, oh, that's a +2 on that dice, and then a minus on that one. She cancels that out.
It's just very simple upgrade. So you roll. I'm going to roll 3 dice. So it's 3 white dice by default. But I'm stood behind the target, so I'm going to upgrade one of them to an orange. You roll it, and immediately you see what you're doing. There's a little bit of maths in that you have to. So you'd subtract the target's defense.
Yeah.
To see how much damage it causes. That's the same as what we had in Hellboy, and it's so simple. So
it's very accessible.
Yeah. It's an easy system.
And I think one of the other things that I was really proud of with Hellboy was the forgot the name of it now because I'm live. The dice, the blue dice, the effect die, where you always rolled that as part of your roll for Hellboy. But with this, we've got the alarm die, treasure die, the loot die. It's the alarm die. But basically, it does a slightly different thing. But every time you do things like
it's mainly when you slay a defender,
kill a defender, or smash open a door.
I think doors. This is the thing. When you design a game, it switches around so much. We get so confused.
Because we've remembered every single version of it. So
which that's why we make mistakes in videos. But, I think it's when you
destroy a defender. There's a chance that they might raise the alarm by dying in a dramatic way. So they might be like
screaming loudly. Yeah,
exactly.
Or they might drop loot, and so there's that risk element in every time you attack a defender, which I really like, and I think that's been sort of dragged through from Hellboy.
The effect die worked really nicely in Hellboy to add an element of uncertainty because you're all cooperative, you're on the same side. There isn't like an opposing player. Whereas in League of Infamy, because you've got the Keep Master, they'll be playing cards and doing things which will mess with your dice rolls otherwise. Absolutely. So the effect die wouldn't have fitted here, but it's interesting to see that it's the legacy of your upgradable, downgradable dice plus 1 extra die. That's carried across. Yeah. But I mean, also it's similar to Hellboy in that it's a game where you each control a character apart from the Keep Master. You're rocking through an environment, killing in this case good guys rather than bad guys, and taking their stuff. Throwing small elven cats at each other is a key part of gameplay if you're playing a certain character. With this, though, what it adds is the kind of things you want from a dungeon crawler. So experience, looting, a campaign mode. These are things that a lot of people who played Hellboy said, can Hellboy have this? And it didn't really work for Hellboy because the Hellboy narrative, the comics, they're not like a blow by blow, here's a week in the life of BPRD.
The case files are like
they're spread across
decades of work.
Whereas here, this absolutely works.
And it's not like he gets better at shooting.
Exactly.
Yeah. He doesn't really improve.
No.
He's always got a big fist that he punches people with.
There are certain bits like when in Hellboy, when a character sort of develops and grows and learns new stuff, it's a really important character moment and it's really pivotal. And it doesn't want to just be because he's punched 7 frogs, now he can.
Yeah, it's not incremental. It's like huge leaps.
Yeah. But in this, absolutely, it's much more like that.
Yeah. You get a chance to pick skills and pick your loot. Yeah. And sort
depending on how well you do, that's part of the individual performance thing, isn't it? The better you are amongst your group, the more you get to upgrade your character, which is quite funny because that does make things a little bit more competitive. At the open day, I simulated this by saying the winner got a donut. And that worked quite nicely.
People fiercely fought for that donut.
I didn't mention it till like halfway through the game. I went, oh, by the way, the winner gets a donut, and suddenly everyone sat up and was like, right, I see. I see what we're playing now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually wow. You're preempting my question. This is so good. It was like one of the questions was, how long does it take for games to generally descend into like backstabbing and nastiness?
It varies.
A huge variety. There are some people. I've seen games where people literally turn 1 are stabbing each other in the back. I mean, you don't even get disorder cards until the end of the first turn, which are the thing that sort of allow you to break the rules so that you can do like little mean things, not things that you can't kill another character, but you could like trip them up or like steal a piece of loot. But even then, people will deliberately like open a door with a load of defenders behind it right next to a character that's already had their turn, so they can't move out of the way, and then run away. And you're like, well, that's just needlessly petty. But then other people will leave it right to the last minute, like cooperatively work all the way up to the very last turn, and then use every single trick they've got to try and trip up the other players to get out.
Yeah, the most experienced players, people who have played through the playtests and have played quite a lot of it, what they get is that you have to work together, and so they will do their best to work as a team towards the objective. But all it takes is one of them to play a disorder card to get an advantage, because a disorder card gives you infamy points, which you can then spend to improve your dice rolls or to avoid damage. So playing them, like, the game gives you a good reason to play them, not just to screw over your friends. So people play one of those, but of course they're all generally ones that target another player. And as soon as you've been targeted by one, well, the wheels fall off, and you go, right, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to hit you back with something.
Yeah, if you tripped me, even though it made no difference, I'm gonna pickpocket you, and then they go, well, if you pickpocketed me, I'm going to do this, and it spirals out of control very, very quickly.
And I think there's
like a change in the atmosphere, isn't there?
There really is.
If I suddenly go, oh, we're probably going to achieve the mission. So now I'm going to start really messing other people up. And that is the best time to be the keep master, because in some other games where there's a GM kind of character and then several players, sometimes the GM feels like they can't actually do the nastiest stuff, because they're like, oh, well, I'm responsible for everyone else's enjoyment, and if they're having fun, I don't want them to feel...
This game, I've never felt like that.
No, because the thing is you don't feel like you're responsible. If you do something that's going to totally hurt them and mess up their strategy, you don't feel guilty about it, because they're already doing it to themselves. So you're just taking advantage of the situation they've put themselves in, and hubris is a brilliant game mechanic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where when we try to make sure that the keep master is enjoying the game and the experience just as much. Yeah. But there is that. Every game has a different point, but it's very tangible, like in the atmosphere where people suddenly look around the table.
I think, there's one thing that a lot of people in the comments on Kickstarter, we've seen a few people saying, oh, but is it just a complete free-for-all? You know, do you ever get anything done, or is it just complete backstabbing? No, I mean, the core rules of the game don't let you screw each other over that badly. It's just the disordered cards that come in and mess around with it. Mm-hmm. And as I say, once you've played the game once or twice and got that out of your system, you will start working as more of a cohesive group, generally. But you are always still out for your own personal gain. So in our experience, not to blow our own trumpet, but it feels like it strikes quite a nice balance between working as a team and working for yourselves, as it should for a group of villains.
Yes.
It's very thematic.
But it's petty, isn't it? The stuff that people do is really
petty. The little one square shove into a baby Dracon before you run away is
or just when someone's struggling to keep going and they go to drink a healing potion, they're like, oh, sorry, I pickpocketed that ages ago from you. Just all sorts of stuff like that. We've actually got some comments on the YouTube, shall we?
Yeah.
What have we got? When will Goblins of Infamy be released?
That is because I keep joking. The other one is League of Goblins as well. People asking why it's not called that. So I think League of Goblins. I've talked about cancelling the Kickstarter and just changing it all. Everyone's a goblin.
Everyone's a goblin.
So we'll probably
later
today.
Why not? We've got 2 goblins. How many more goblins do you want?
Well, they should all be goblins.
Yeah.
So someone's asked, what is League of Infamy? We did that right at the start, I think.
Yeah. No question's been left since the start.
Which was the hardest character to think of skills for?
Ooh,
that's a really good question.
That's a similar to one of my questions.
It is. Now, Rob, could you just name the characters that have been revealed on Kickstarter?
So we haven't revealed.
If you tell us what we haven't revealed, that's good.
Let's do it like that way. Probably we haven't revealed a musical playing.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. We haven't revealed an aquatic.
Yep.
Yeah, and we haven't revealed a naughty wizard.
Okay.
Or have you?
Well, we. You mentioned a thing.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Did you spot that? I don't know if you did. Yeah. Okay, so other than that,
right. Okay. Now the thing is that actually, rather than it being a single character, we spent hours of time making sure there was a big variety of gameplay between the villains, because in the Kings of War universe, actually not that many people have guns. And not many people have ranged weapons.
No. Speak to the dwarves, they'll disagree with you.
But it meant that if we'd gone for the most obvious tropes of everything, when we looked at all the different options we had for villains,
one range character,
there was 1 or 2 range characters, and they were very samey because typically, dwarves always do this, or Twilight King always do this, or whatever it was. So we had a huge challenge of actually looking at every single villain that was available and making sure that each one of them had like a unique playing
Yeah.
style, and making sure that there was a variety of ranged and close combat characters. And when you had close combat characters, they didn't all play the same, and when you had ranged characters, they didn't all play the same. And I spent weeks of time working that out, like which ones, what could everyone do, and how could they do it, and how would their equipment, the combination of their equipment and their skills work so that they could do different stuff to make it feel really varied and playable. And then on top, working out all the additional add-on skills.
Yeah.
Because they've all got tags, which means that certain people suit certain
Do you remember
types
being
of
out
playing.
of whiteboard work?
My
did,
goodness.
trying to figure out what the tags should be.
Huge
and
spreadsheets, yeah. That got revised like 4 or 5 times.
We were just bashing our heads
to
against
make-
them all at various
Yeah,
points.
to make sure that everyone had a combination of like different tags that would give them thematic that played into their character, skills that they could improve on, but would give everyone individual like interesting combos that would be unique to that villain.
Well, because the upgrades, when you get upgrades and abilities in the game, you're limited to the number you can get, but also they're not things that massively overbalance the characters. So we never wanted to make it so that characters get hugely unwieldy and overpowerful. Instead, they give you more options.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, we didn't want them to be where they've got so many skills, because I've played this with loads of games, and this is like varying from like RPGs all the way through to board games, all the way through to war games, is that if you have one thing that can do lots of stuff, you inevitably forget like important stuff. You're like, oh no, they can do this thing, because you're trying to retain it all in your brain. So we wanted it to be very very clear, very accessible. You concentrate on 2 or 3 things that make you really good at what you do, and you just evolve those. And I think that worked really nicely. But the combinations, to make sure that every character got different combinations of tags, so that they had access to different skills, how those skills work together, so that a unique combination of skills and equipment wouldn't totally break the game.
I'll tell you what I will say is I've forgotten his name. Norman the Grumpy Dwarf. What's his actual name?
Karzel.
No, not Karzel. That's the Deaf Dwarf. I mean the Grumpy.
Sad dwarf,
Odor.
That's it, Odor,
yeah.
He was a weird one because he has some very interesting mechanics where he transforms into a werewolf mid-game. So he has a double-sided character card, and that was a whole thing about, well, how does he level up? Because he's literally got different tags.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a Bruce Banner, the Hulk situation where it's 2 different personalities. So you're leveling up one or the other of them, and skills become useful or stop being useful depending on which mode he's in. And when he's like I think he's a healer, isn't he? He can heal stuff when he's
but he can't
in his dwarf
heal
form. When he's in werewolf form, he's a lot less controllable, but an absolute combat monster. And that was really fun to kind of figure out. That took us a long time to get.
Yeah, and again, making sure that you had to make him powerful enough that if he couldn't use his skills because you leveled up the other side, he didn't feel overpowered without the skills.
Yeah.
And with the skills, like if you added a skill on, would that overpower him? It was just like, it was a huge amount of playtesting and
Out of
tweaking.
interest, has guy with a gun been shown? Popular guy, quite recently.
Guy with a gun.
Doing that.
Blaine.
Yeah.
Yes. So we haven't
Hey.
shown the stats for Blaine that
We've shown the rules.
We've only got the artwork at the minute. That's still being
because he was fun to write.
Yeah.
I did the rules for him, and the thing is, Blaine has been around. I mean, he was at Mantic almost as long as when I was. I think.
I think was it Dreadball or Dead Zone was the first one.
It was. Let's think. It was the
Dreadball.
Dreadball Kickstarter. He was one of the very last stretch goals on the first
Dreadball. He was a coach.
No, he was a star player first.
Oh, was he? I thought he was a coach.
No, because coaches didn't come in and... oh no, am I lying?
I
forget. Someone's going to correct us on there.
lane.
Basically, he was one of the late stretch goals on the original Dreadball Kickstarter, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
He then came in and he was a coach in Dreadball Extreme.
That's right, because he's sitting with his arms folded.
Yes. But he has he's appeared in pretty much every Mantic game since, I believe.
Yeah, apart from Hellboy.
Yeah.
And Walking Dead. For obvious
the
reasons.
ones where, and Mars Attacks probably he didn't appear.
He was in Mars Attacks.
Was he? Oh, there you go, yeah. But basically, trying to come up with a set of rules that made him fun. We kind of the idea that he's like a very high-ranking league member, and so when you play him, he's an intentionally leveled up character. the Keepmaster gets some bonuses if the villains choose Blaine. And there's a whole thing about if you play a disorder card on him, you get punished. So
you can play a disorder card on him, but he might be able to do nastier things to you than normal villains.
You get the feeling like it's like a school outing, and he's the teacher who's come along. You know, like he's got his blunderbuss. He has to reload it after firing, but other villains can do it for him and get infamy in return. There's all sorts of fun stuff like that with it. So that's a very long answer to a question. There's loads of questions coming up.
Oh yeah, there's loads. Shall I read some more out?
I've just got one here on the Needy Cat Facebook.
Yes.
Francisco Guerra, who says, it's a million AM here in New Zealand, but wanted to say I love the Hellboy game. I was a huge fan of the IP, and I'm very much looking forward to League of Infamy. Well, we hope you like it.
Yes, we are very excited about it as well. It's always so nice when you finally get to actually play with the finished game. Yeah. Like, if any of you saw our unboxings of the Hellboy product, we were just so excited because it's
so
just
much nicer than the version we use ourselves.
Because we make them out of like dodgy bits of card, and they're all like moth-eaten by the end because we play test so often, so they're just battered by the end of the process. So we are so excited to get our box. Right, okay, let's have a look. What's your favourite disorder card, James?
Okay, no question. It's got to be the Looking for This card.
Yeah.
So Looking for This, which is basically it's the one where you play it when another villain reveals an item they had stowed, i.e. in their kit, their pack somewhere, and it's usually a healing potion, and they go, I'm going to drink my. Wait a second, where's that gone? And you go, oh sorry, you're looking for this because you at some point swiped it. What I love is it abstracts it a little bit. It's like pickpocketing them, but at some point in the past, even if they've only just picked it up, somehow you've got it, and there's only one of them in the deck, and when it happens, it is always just a really fun moment for at least all but one of the people at the table. So yeah, that's probably my favourite. How about yourself?
I actually can't remember the name of the card. That's terrible, isn't it? It's the one where basically you gain infamy based on how far forward you are on the initiative track. So if you're like third and the person who's going first swaps with
cut
you.
In.
Yeah, cut in, that's it. You get equal infamy, because what is incredible about it is that people will come up with such elaborate plans and reasons and excuses to convince the person who's
let me go first, and I can do this, and then you can do that, and we'll mutually win.
And they've been clearly thinking about it for turn after turn, thinking, how can I convince this person to swap with me? And they will come up with this huge plan, and then they'll go, oh, that's a really good idea. I'm so glad we're working together. Okay, I'll do that. And then they go, oh, I've just gained like 3 infamy there. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not going to do anything that I said.
You're not going to do anything that I just planned. And they'll be like, but, it was a good plan, right? And I love that kind of, people put so much more thought than I thought they would into it. Like, I just expected people to go on, swap with me, go on. And actually, people always come up with these, like, really elaborate excuses. And that is so funny to watch. So, shall I do another one?
Go on then.
How do you find a balance between the different mechanics to make sure that there isn't too many cards, dice to work with? Is it just down to playtesting, or is there something intuitive to it?
I can answer this one. Mm-hmm. We have a very complex mathematical. No, it's playtesting. It's playtesting. Yep. We start off with sort of go roughly this many cards is about right. Often there's a bit of back and forth with like Mantic saying how many cards can we have? What's a sensible number to put in the box? Which is usually about 70% of what we originally planned, because we planned far too much. But then what will happen is those cards will go into expansions and things, and then we just play it. And a big part of playtesting, a big part of what we do, because we run game design courses, plug, and then one of the things we talk about to our attendees is when you're playtesting, you're not just looking at how the game's playing, you're looking at how the players are interacting. And if players are fumbling and stumbling because there's too many components or things are too spread out,
or they're just having to stretch across the table.
And make if they're going, right, I've got to roll a dice, which then lets me draw a card, which then tells me to roll a dice. Things like that. You're looking at how the players react to that, and then you start honing the game. And I often say game design is like pruning a bonsai tree. A lot of the time, a lot of the skill in game design is cutting things out rather than adding things in.
Yeah, it's very rare that we'll get towards the sort of middle to end of a game and we're adding more stuff. Usually we'll find like a system that works, like we'll have a mechanic or like a core theme, and what we find is that that works really well for, like, say, combat. And then we're like, oh, why aren't we just using the same dice system when you're attacking a door?
Yeah.
Why have we got a different one? Okay, well, we'll strip all of those extra rules out and just use the same system for that. Okay, well, why aren't we using the same rules system when you're, searching a room or whatever it is? And what you find is that you trim and you refine your game to the point where then once you've learned one thing, everything else is quite intuitive. And
part of that just naturally trims the number of components and things.
And cards. And what you'll find is people will be like, it's about how wieldy and unwieldy it is in your hand, how quickly the game plays. And we'll tweak things. We'll say, maybe people can have smaller hands of cards, or maybe the Keep Master can have a bigger hand of cards that'll speed up the game. And then you're like, oh no, that was too quick. Okay, we'll add one more back in, test it. Oh no, maybe it's not the card numbers, maybe it's this.
You do get to the point where it's a bit like being like trying to get the temperature right in the shower.
Yeah.
You'll make one little tweak one way and the game just goes
it's like safe cracking.
It really is,
yeah.
You pull it back a little bit and too far that way, and you have to kind of refine it. But that's game design. That's
it's a really good question though, because some people do a lot of like mathsy, spreadsheety stuff. And I think that will always give you a ballpark, but until you play test it, you will never know for certain.
Absolutely.
And we're very much like, this, and then we'll see how it works. So
we've got a question there from John Cousin. John Cousin. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but hi John, I've seen you before. Will there be guidelines for designing your own missions in the same way as Star Saga had the supplement? I think we're trying to work out the Dwarf Brewery Raid, one of the other things. I like that over Dwarf Brewery Raid. That's
one idea
really cool.
we had actually at one point.
Yes.
We had a couple of ideas, and one of them was instead of maybe doing the halflings or
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about doing
Dwarf Brewery Raid. Yeah. I don't think there's no plans to do a supplement immediately to like do it. But the thing is,
it's totally doable.
Yeah. It might be more a couple of blog posts to explain just the thing that, because really any system like that is going to be write a scenario, play it, see if it works, tweak it.
That's the thing, is that every time you add something or take something away, it is going to unbalance or rebalance something else somewhere else. But if you play through to the final scenario in the core game with the Elven Fortress, by the end of it, you're basically choosing absolutely every aspect of the game other than the map tiles, so you could pretty much use that format and just change the map tiles around.
That's actually a very good point. So when you compare this to, say, Star Saga, where every mission is a very heavily themed, laid out thing, so it's a very sort of narrative style of thing.
It's very controlled.
Exactly, yeah. So the Nexus player is kind of controlling what's on the map, but they're very much doing what the book tells them to do. Here, what you've got is the Keep Master is much more in control of what it is. So you don't really need as many guidelines, because the game is already modular enough that you know how to pick the defenders for a mission, how to lay out the rooms, how to set up the exploration bag. All you would need to do is just tweak the map layout and play around with and any special rules and things. And that is, like I said, it's probably the kind of thing we could do in a blog post.
It's the sort of thing I can see loads of people just making their own homebrew dungeons based on the format of the final scenario in the core game, because you literally pick all your defenders, pick the 2 additional Keep Master sets that you're going to have in with your Keep Master deck, add in X amount of rooms. You can literally use the size of the tiles and the number of rooms that you get available in the final scenario, but just change those round, upgrade them if you want to or not, so that they're stronger doors.
And then gives you like a certain a defense budget.
It gives you a defense budget, so then you can use that on additional defenders that are in rooms, or you can in corridors, or you can make barricades and do all of that, which is what the Keep Master is able to do in the final scenario anyway. And then literally, it's a case of changing the map tiles and which rooms are available and which ones aren't. And that's pretty much it. That's the only thing you need to change. So knock yourself out, test it, play with it. It's there for the taking, really.
There's a question from Mr. Steve. I'm going to ask this one because it's a great one. What's the most devious double crossing we've seen in playtesting?
Ooh. I
mean, there have been so many, so many fantastic moments. I think actually the best one I've seen recently wasn't in playtesting. It was in that in the TNG video, where I forget the exact details of what happened, but there was basically a situation where someone shoved another villain literally into the middle of a load of defenders with a disorder card in order to literally run off the board and abandon them to their fate. Yeah. And they'd been kind of, I think we'd been working more or less together. There was definitely some antagonism going throughout it, but we were very much broadly on the same side. And then this just last minute shove, see you later.
I've seen people use so Melantha has a thing which is
yes, okay, yeah.
And I've seen lots of people be like, it's okay, I'll get you back up and you're fully healed and it's all great. And then it's when I think I saw one where the goblin was in a room being beset upon by cats. They're not that terrifying, but in large quantities, you can't
just like in real life.
them. Yeah. And but he was on like really low health and he'd already had this blood bond. And
so it's basically it's a heal.
It's a full heal.
The vampire character heals you, and then you get some small print attached to it.
Yeah, and then basically she'd been attacked by, I think she was on fire, and she was so close to getting off the end of the board, and she could have just left and survived, but she was like, I'm just going to do my blood bond and heal up, which put the goblin down
sucks
to
health back out the goblin into her.
So, and then she literally went, I feel better now, and then jumped out the window.
No, and it was completely petty. There was no need to do it at all.
No, there was no need, but that meant that the goblin was on like 3 health, surrounded by like 4 cats, and it was just like, what do I do here? Yeah. I think he actually managed to crawl his way out, like, because he had a couple of healing potions, and he literally like crawled his way out, but was the last one to get out, had like no infamy left, no gold, and she'd done it entirely because earlier on he had pickpocketed her, and she was just doing it out of malice. Yeah. And I just think that's great. You get these like little bitter,
tiny little, I mean, we've seen vengeance like occur 3
across
games later
games,
in a campaign,
across games, It's people remember like, but you're always saying you'll help
it's
me out.
It's a game for people with memories.
Yeah.
I run. Sorry, I'm going to come in. I had one early in testing when I think it was a slightly different one of the scenarios where you had to grab the one Dracon egg and make it out of the building. Yes. Yeah. So I was the goblin player. In fact, it might have been when we played... Oh, no, it wasn't when we played... It wasn't when we played with Tabletop Gaming. No. I'd got the egg. I was playing as a goblin. I'd done really well. I was really pleased with myself. Now I was just going to use a card, which was the Potion of Haste, I think. Which was to get out of the room. And then everyone collectively played things to stop me doing it. Someone tripped me up. Yeah. Someone stopped me being able to run.
You went to grab the potion and it wasn't there
anymore. That's right. Yeah, that's it. Someone stole my potion, and then in the end, I couldn't make it out, and then someone stole my egg. Yeah. So there we go. That was... See? And I still play it.
If in doubt, betray Rob. That's the motto we've come up with.
Basically, never trust the goblin.
Yeah.
Oh. What have we got here?
Has anyone used the term Roblin yet? Is that...
No. I think they're possibly. I think maybe. Yeah.
Can we get that going now?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got one more as Mr. Steve. I'm planning on playing with my wife and 2 kids. Any tips for the first-time Keepmaster to prevent the divorce?
Just let them be disordered amongst themselves and occasionally nudge them along.
Yeah.
There was a point during development where the disorder cards weren't a deck by themselves. Do you remember this?
Yeah, that was very early. That was the idea, wasn't it?
It was the idea where it came from. Was the idea that the disorder cards were kind of meant to represent playing like D&D or other role-playing games where the DM passes notes to players, which are always a suspicious thing. And so the idea was there were certain cards in the Keepmaster deck that the Keepmaster could pass to players, and the players could then play them to get infamy tokens, like disorder cards are. But they were very much targeted by the Keepmaster. And there was one of them was just said, this is a blank card, doesn't do anything, but good luck convincing other players that that's the case. So at that point the Keepmaster was very antagonistic, so they were very much making the players betray each other. We pulled that out for various reasons, so now actually the villains do a great job of betraying each other. Mm-hmm. You just have to
you're reinforcing your keep. And the thing is if the villains are disciplined enough to work together, communicate well, not screw each other over, and work as a team, then it's a very tight game where there's a good chance they'll all get out and they'll be totally untouched, but there's also a good chance that the Keepmaster will just about beat them. Yeah. As more and more disorder happens, the Keepmaster can then use those moments of weakness to really exploit and break up the team. And also the classic thing we see in every first game is everyone starts betraying each other really early on, and everyone splits up and goes to completely different areas because they all want their own room and they want to get their own treasure and they don't trust anyone else. And that almost always ends in disaster. So just if you're going to be the Keepmaster, just encourage them, stick together, work together. Then it looks like you're being really helpful. And then when things inevitably fall apart anyway, then you can just be like, well, I was trying to help you.
And then have no mercy. Question from Scott again. Thanks, it's really informative. Are you allowed to talk about how the large bosses work in the game? Are they only able to work on certain supported apps, that sort of thing? Yeah, basically. So what we did with the large models is there are certain rules they work basically just like normal villains. The rules are very much borrowed from Dungeon Saga and Star Saga for large models.
Yeah, they can move into rooms and things.
Yes,
because
they squeeze through doors basically.
Yeah, they just can't stop in a doorway or anything like that. So we have put thought into the fact that they can manoeuvre around, but obviously if there's like a little tiny corridor and you're running all the way down it, then you can outmanoeuvre them.
There are, some of the scenarios that feature the larger monsters in, as the centerpiece of that mission, they have the board layout has been specially put together to really let you play around with that character. So because a lot of the maps are quite not claustrophobic, but certainly there's a lot going on in a small area. The fact that you can pretty much play an interesting scenario on just one map tile because of all the different rooms and things. That the counterpoint of that is that larger characters haven't got. It's not an open field. This isn't a thing like it's not a Kings of War or Vanguard battle where you've got a huge area for a Drakon to spread its wings. So intentionally, they feel a little bit cramped.
And that balances out because they are really powerful, but you can outmaneuver them. Especially with like the Cave Dweller and things like that that have been recently unlocked. They are really big, and so the scenarios in which you can play them have got bigger spaces. But you can totally outmaneuver them at the same time.
That's it. Cool. Any more questions from you, Rob?
Well, so we kind of did a little bit. Which has been your favourite villain?
Oh, that's a tough one. I like Kazel because I love the idea we've come up with, which is that he thinks he's a very stealthy character. He's just very deaf.
Yeah.
In most games we've seen, he enters the keep, and as he steps in the doorway, his finger first pulls a trigger, and he doesn't stop pulling triggers until he's back asleep at night several hours after the mission is over.
He very much Yosemite Sam's the whole thing.
He does. He's just doing it. Even when he's not actually making shoot actions, he's still firing into
I just
the air.
love the idea that he's slightly deaf, so you're like, shh, and he's like, what?
I am being quiet.
Yeah, what are you doing?
But from the start, when we first saw his concept art, we were like, oh, this is this character because he just looks like he's enjoying himself.
Yeah, he just had this manic grin on his face, didn't he? I'm a really big fan of the, what do we call it in the end? Was it the Cleric Hunter?
Oh, the Priest
Hunter.
Yeah.
I think she's incredible because I really love the way she plays. She's a real combat beast.
She's like a rogue fighter sort of character.
Rogue fighter, so she can use like a sword. She can use her gun in close combat, and she's got a sword. And I just think she's great. And actually, like the way that she can fly through defenders and villains if she needs to occasionally. I really enjoy playing her. She's the one I enjoy playing a game with most. But every time we make one, there's some great things.
We've tried to give every one of them a hook, something interesting, because one of the things you borrowed from Hellboy is the idea that you get like a character card and 2 starting cards of some kind. There's plenty of room to give them quite characterful rules. So every character has generally either got a rule which messes with the other players somehow, or which gives the Keepmaster alarm token somehow. So every character's got an option for doing things. So whether it's Kazel Runesbane, who's very slow but can do what's called a clanking sprint, give the Keepmaster an alarm token to move extra squares. You've got
and that's another way that the Keepmaster can mess with people. It's like, but you could totally get there. You could totally get to that dragon egg.
You just need to make a bit of noise. It's fine.
It's fine. It's only an alarm token. That sort of stuff is great.
Moindaji's got a thing where she can remove fire tokens from herself or nearby villains, but it causes alarm tokens. I imagine because the infernal howling of the abyss that happens around her when the fires go up. But they've all been fun to kind of work out what that hook is. What is the thing that makes them interesting and unique? Because as Soph said in a few different interviews, these are not vanilla Kings of War characters. These are not the characters you'd see necessarily fighting on the front lines.
Why are they members of the League?
They're sneaky, devious, no good people.
And they're people who break the mould in some way. They're not the standard people who are fighting on the front lines. They have got their own motivations for being there, and so they are a bit weird and different. So we have a lot of flexibility in that way. Yeah. In that regard.
We had a little glut of questions come through. Maybe it's been answered already, but the exclusive miniatures, is it just the sculpt that's exclusive, or the villain and its rules completely exclusive to League of Infamy? Rob, that's a question for you.
So
join us.
It depends. So things like the Wandering Beasts, it will be that expansion as a whole will be kind of Kickstarter exclusive, but then the miniatures themselves we might use for other stuff. I don't know. Same as the like the Trident Realm, similar kind of thing as well. That will be The miniatures will probably be using something else, but the actual scenario itself, if you want to play Siren's Wrath, this is the way to get it. And then Kickstarter exclusives, we often put them on Mantic points and things like that. So yeah,
they're limited availability.
Yeah, they're normally they're limited. It's a good way to put it actually. So you maybe I'll say them for Mantic points, but generally it's kind of they stay on the Kickstarter really.
Okay.
Like all the Hellboy ones are pretty much we haven't had those actually. They've stayed on Hellboy. So I'll go back to my corner.
I feel like I should drop a smoke bomb and you appear. That's what else we got? My family sad to say are villains. Well, Mr. Steve, you found the right game.
Could we see the League leak through the Warpath/Deadphone universe?
Yeah, good. I don't know. Is there an equivalent evil thing? To be fair, I mean, Star Saga is all about Blaine's mercenaries. It's kind of gone the other way, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah, one might argue that the corporations have become that they've got the same kind of Machiavellian. Thank you. Yeah. I just a terrible thing. They've got that control of pulling all the strings and controlling governments. So maybe
satirical, topical stuff.
Yeah, maybe they were influenced by the corporations in the first place.
I mean, Blaine is the interdimensional, interplanetary bounty hunter, I think. So maybe where did he set it? Did he set it up in Warpath first, or did he set it up in?
Here's the question: is there one Blaine? Are there several Blaines? Who can say?
Yeah. Now we're getting deep.
These are questions.
Okay,
cool. That's all the questions up there.
We had one question, and you kind of answered this a little bit. But was it been like creating bad characters compared to your typical kind of good characters?
Yeah, I think it's been really fun.
It's been really fun.
It's like a thing where, like I say, having the ability to give everyone an ability, some kind of hook that lets them mess around with other players or generally make things harder for everyone else it's fun because the game just gives you permission from a designer's point of view to mess around a little bit and have a bit of fun with it. Yeah,
and the thing is as well is that it gave us a huge well of ideas to mine in terms of game design, just cool concepts, what the mission's going to be like, what we're doing, because there's been so many out in the grand scheme thing of dungeon crawler style games that they've all done all of the sort of good guys rescue a village from giant woodlice or whatever it is. But
I'd like to play that game. Whatever that one is. That sounds good.
Coming to Kickstarter in 2021. No, but the whole point is that this gave us loads of really cool ideas. How would you plant a bomb? How would you assassinate someone?
Hang on 1 second. We're being interrupted. Wait there.
How would you do anything else that would be a sorry, it's just it's fine. But how would you do anything else that's a bit naughty? How do you steal stuff? Those are things that you don't necessarily ask questions of when you're doing a good guy scenario. It's been really liberating because we've had just this huge pile of stuff that we can use as inspiration to create new scenarios and new villains and new ways of playing the game, which you would feel that you couldn't do if you were doing your standard kind of Dungeons and Dragons good guys.
You play with different tropes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's been great from a design perspective as well as just because it's really silly and fun and enjoyable. Yeah.
Cool. So we've got a question on here from the Needy Cat group. Since these guys are villains and they're usually seen in a pub scheming, are there any drinking disorder cards that would be fun? I'm sure someone, when the game comes out, will create a drinking game version of League of Infamy.
That would be, yeah, I'd like to see it.
Infamy time. I don't know. I'm not going to get into it now, but I'm sure there's
not safe for work version.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. League of Infamy after dark, which is, to be fair, when most of it would happen anyway. So,
yeah. I like the idea though.
Yeah, sorry, we had a little interruption from our neighbour Martin. We've got a little row of offices here, and he was offering us some tomatoes, which I said yes to.
Oh, lovely!
So we'll get some tomatoes afterwards.
Not to people watching.
Yeah, no, sorry.
If you want a tomato, send a self-addressed envelope. You're not getting tomatoes.
We're not guaranteeing the quality of what you receive though.
Well, you got to get it in an envelope, which involves flattening a tomato anyway. So.
With a hammer.
Any more questions? What we got?
Walking Dead had retail-only expansions. Do you see the same sort of thing for League of Infamy?
Oh yeah, that was a question saying actually that we had was obviously we've got the Halfling expansion, the Trident Realm. Are there any expansions you would kind of like? I mean, we talked about a bit like the Dwarf Brewery and things like that. Are there any that you would really like to see?
Good question. I mean, I think the idea of in Trident Realms, we played around with the idea that the League don't just target the good guys, because the Trident Realms are kind of a neutral faction. I quite like the idea of the League of Infamy being sent somewhere even, somewhere evil, so the Keepmaster gets a chance to be a bit more evil as well.
Yeah.
Because, obviously, the Keepmaster is being the noble, valiant elf in the core game, and various other things. And, it's a shame when, on the open day when I was running demos, when we had a group of 5 players, I'd be like, right, does one of you feel like not being a bad guy for today? And they're all like, I want to be a baddie. Yeah. So it'd be nice if everyone could just be evil. Even the League doing a raid on a different cell of the League, that would be quite fun.
That would be amazing. Because the thing is that the whole point of the League is that they are constantly putting their fingers in whatever pies are relevant to them making the most profit.
Really unhygienic.
It's just revolting. But also they are trying to control geopolitical situations so that they make the most money or they get the most power. So absolutely I could see them sabotaging the elves to encourage goblins to attack, but then the goblins get a bit too powerful, so then you're sabotaging the goblin hall so that then they feel they have to retreat to protect their homeland. So that then you could totally see those sorts of things happening. So absolutely, it would be great to see some baddies. Yeah. Some baddie keeps.
That was actually funny. That was one of the ideas. Basically, when we were talking about the concept, is that often the League would send in the people, and they would the halflings would turn out to be like cannibals or something like that. So actually, they would turn out to be even worse than the people that they're sending in. But and I think the League will become a bigger player in Kings of War as well. So maybe
it's been really fun coming up with this idea of who they are and watching how that's then flowing through into Kings of War.
because they're such a great mechanic for the. If there's a summer campaign or something, well, it's actually the League who's kind of, rather than always being a big, the abyss is growing or things like that, actually, the League
is scheming something.
To the Shires where the halflings are or something like that. That's really a cool mechanic, actually.
Absolutely.
So, expect to see more of them.
Yeah.
Machinations.
Incidentally, 34 mantic points for a tomato. What do you reckon?
35, sorry.
35. Sorry, it's not happening.
And you have to pay postage and packaging.
Did you know you can buy tomatoes in shops?
Not mantic ones, eh?
No, true.
Oh god! Every time you raise the alarm, take a drink. My goodness, that's a hardcore way to. I'm not going to recommend that for anyone.
A sip of water, maybe.
Unless, unless you're really low on your hydration and it's like a big glass of Lucozade or something. Have we got something on the?
They're sharing around the links, I think, to this. It's not on the Mantic Games Facebook page. This is it's on Mantic Game YouTube.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
that's
it is on. There's a link to it on the Facebook page.
Brilliant.
And then it's on the YouTube.
I was just lying
on the YouTube.
Oh,
okay, right.
Which feels very appropriate for League of Infamy, really.
Yeah.
Rob, I've got a question for you.
Oh, come in. Hang on, is this going to be?
Obviously,
you will get paid.
So you've been involved in the game from start to finish. This has kind of been your project.
Yeah.
What was the point at which you thought, this is on the right track, this is working now?
So I think actually it was that when the Disorder cast changed from the Keepmaster handing them out to actually the villains being in charge of their own kind of infamy. I think that was a real big thing, because I think before the idea of the Keepmaster handing them out seemed like such a good idea, because it was that kind of sowing the seeds of dissent. And it was a bit like they're all villains, but obviously if there's someone in the sanctuary kind of going, if you do this, I'm going to give you that. And that kind of made sense. But actually, when we played it like that, no one was using them, because you're thinking, well, you're only giving me this, so I mess up the mission.
So it's so weird, that little change just psychologically made quite a difference, because people were no longer going, well, I'm not going to do it because it's going to help you out. Now they'll do it knowing it will help someone else out, because everyone's doing the same thing. Yeah,
and it was kind of that, and there was that game, I think we had a few games, and then we played that one where that switch, and it was like, that was a real big click. The mechanics were all there. Yeah. It was just that one thing, that kind of sowing disorder was a really clever way of doing it. And I love the way it escalates now as well.
Yeah. And the Keepmaster still influences that. The Keepmaster has cards where you can discard disorder cards.
Yeah.
So that you're milling the disorder deck quicker, which means that you're getting more of these moments where you start drawing more cards, or you start generating more alarm tokens, which sows more dissent, but it's done in a different way.
Yeah.
And it just feels like, because the villains were like, well, I'm not going to do what the Keepmaster tells me to. Where now they're not being told, just doing it for their own pettiness.
Because it's kind of a level playing field. They've all got a loaded gun, so to speak. And it becomes like a Mexican standoff. They all know that any one of them could play it. You know, the first person to play it is generally the one who snapped, and then it all breaks loose.
Yeah, and I love the way it is all very petty. You know, it is all like, I'm going to trip you up, or I'm going to shove you out of the way. It's not like you were saying earlier, it's not game-breaking stuff. It's not like, well, I'm going to kill everyone and then run off. It's like, that'd be
There's one of them like, oi, over there, and it's just, you just turn them face.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, all that kind of stuff is really fun, and it's really daft. Yeah. It's, you know, it is like them, like they're squabbling.
It's like Three Stooges level of interaction. Yeah.
And the way that I always picture it as well is that it's kind of like the League are very aware that their villains are not reliable because they're villains.
Yeah.
So they'll say stuff like, I have this vision where, like, when they get dropped off for a mission by whoever's driving the car or the magical teleportation, there's like a boss. They go, don't stab each other in the back, and they're like, okay. And the longer they're away from that instruction, like in the first few turns, they're like, we're not stabbing each other in the back. We've been told. And then the longer they're like, I could just have that bit of treasure. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. And then it just falls into like this horrible disarray.
Yeah, that was a bit like in the Kickstarter video. Actually, you got that guy. He's kind of like they meet someone at the ogre at the pub who says, "Oh, do you want to do this and do that?" And then they're handed over to their handler from the League, and he's just like, "Oh, Jesus." Again, you recruited these from some pub in Panathor somewhere, and they're absolutely useless. Yeah. But okay. Go off then, and then just try not to kill each other.
It was quite fun writing the colour text of the scenarios, because they are very much, as you go through, the first one is like, right, okay, I've got a job for you. You cannot mess this up.
Yeah,
you know, by the end of it, it's like, okay, I think we trust you now. And then you go into the later campaigns, it's like, oh, you lot, okay, you want a real job now.
Yeah.
You know, it's quite interesting.
Now that
like
you've cut your teeth,
the training wheels are off.
Yeah, you can finally do something of value. Yeah. And you get the impression that like all the earlier missions were just them like, oh, go away, stop bothering us. Which is great in terms of the tone and the writing. Really
from the elves' point of view, they are not aware of this. They are under attack. All hell's breaking loose. I think it's interesting saying that whole thing about, you know, the mechanics were there, but that little change made that. There's always an interesting point in a game design when, like, suddenly the dominoes start falling. Hellboy was a great example. So Hellboy, you were in the Hellboy meetings, weren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's another of your projects. Where we had the clock face.
That's right. I was about to say the clock face.
Very same thing. So we had a whole thing in Hellboy. Those that haven't played Hellboy, you have a thing called the Impending Doom track, which is 12 spaces and lots of things, generally about on average once per round, sometimes more. It will tick along, and when it hits certain spaces, things will happen. And if it reaches the end, boom, the confrontation begins. That's generally bad news. Earlier on, it was a clock face, and the only reason it was a clock face was we had this idea of investigation and action, and investigation is slower and
taking
longer.
Time.
And then it was kind of going back to the sort of D&D style action scenes versus narrative scenes, and we wanted to kind of incorporate that. So we had this whole thing with the clock face, and we had it was moving around once per round, and the 3, 6, and 9 slots there were events that could happen, and it was lovely. Then we just realised, hang on, Hellboy's not about clocks. I think it's when we started looking at the graphic design for it, like what it would look like. And there's like one picture of Hellboy's watch that appears in one comic, and that's about it. And it's a digital watch. It's and we changed that to the Doom track, and suddenly it's like, oh, hang on, this actually feels so much better.
Yeah, because it just felt like encroaching worry rather than it being like,
oh, I've got to go for dinner.
Yeah.
It's actually
the irons on.
Yeah, it had like, because it felt like dread, existential dread, was it just like dawning on you rather than it being a thing about like, times and specific 9:20 in the morning. That's when we're going to do things. So
that's a cool idea. It'd be fun if your League team finished a quest and got jumped on the way back by another group of scoundrels. That's a fun thing you could figure out.
The League are totally, I mean, they're totally unscrupulous. So I think that's
one of the scenarios is you're going in, a League team got sent in to do some stuff, and you are being sent in to recover their stuff.
Yeah,
because it's valuable, you know.
Yeah. Because the thing is that as well, in between games, there's like a whole sort of kitting up sort of section, and if you are downed, you're not killed because they're the good guys. They're not going to kill you, but they will arrest you.
They'll throw you into jail so you can serve time for your crimes.
So there is a thing where if you're captured, the League will come and break you out, but they're like, oh my god, I can't believe we're having to break you out.
And there's a cost.
And there's a cost to that, because they're like, well, this cost us time and money, and we've had to hire Joe for the day, and like that's a penalty, but it doesn't get you out the game completely. And so when you're going in to rescue their stuff, it's another group of villains who have been imprisoned because they got captured, and now you're the ones doing the rescue mission, and you're like, oh,
you get the
now
feeling
we're
there's a
going to help
separate
them
team
out.
rescuing them. You're just rescuing the stuff that's more
I think we
valuable.
hinted to that in that initial Panathor one of those newspapers. The first one says they'd foiled an egg heist, which was, I think, like a zombie and an orc.
Yes,
Then sent in the worst team. Like they could possibly send, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, actually, we better send someone else in. So this is actually the second team they've sent into the
So you're
sanctuary.
playing the one above the worst person
Yeah,
they
that's
could
right,
send in.
Yeah.
So I really like the idea of there being like a little mini scenario where you're being dumped on by the spare villains you have lying around. That'd be really fun.
That could be a little exclusive.
It becomes PvP all of a sudden. The gangs of villains versus.
Absolutely. Well, that's it. We've got enough villains. You have a 4-on-4 game with a Keepmaster in the middle, just screwing people over.
Is that like the Jets and the Sharks? Like that? It's like a whole.
You need to get some rules for jazz and ballet.
Musical, then a musical element to it. Yeah, that sounds. There we go. I think we've nailed it.
That's what you need, a musical character. I have to come up with that.
Well, I think today that might.
Today, you work quickly. I only just mentioned.
Oh yeah, I'm going to go back now and concept it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But I think I've had my questions that we were asked on there, so I think we've been on. Any more questions on here?
That's pretty much all the questions there are. Looking good.
Yeah, all right.
So, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much to James and Sophie as well for letting me invade their office and do this. The Kickstarter ends in 5 days. So, kind of make sure if you're not already jumped on, you need to jump on quick, or you'll miss your chance. Yeah. Until late pledges. But for the moment, jump on board, and that's fine. But so thank you very much. And thank you very much to everyone who's joined us so far, and we will see you soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Now the awkward bit
where you watch me stop streaming.
We'll just
like an old person leaving an answering machine message.
There we go.
How do I hang up?